Cornelius, tonight I want us to talk about the Tourism Transformation Fund. Now, I'm not sure, is this the same as the Tourism Equity Fund, which was subject to a lot of court challenges and a lot of issues around 2020?
I think maybe just to start off with, this is a bit of a separate fund.
Okay.
And maybe just to talk to it, what exactly is it? It's a relationship that has been formed by the National Empowerment Fund with the Department of Tourism, where we came together, and the Department of Tourism has provided some funds that can be utilized to fund businesses that are in the tourism sector, where both the NEF and the tourism department go 50-50 in those transactions. I think that is a fund that is existing. It's a fund that is managed by the NEF for and on behalf of the Department of Tourism. So it is a separate fund.
And the intention, I guess the thinking behind this particular fund, and ideally also who it's aiming at targeting?
So the fund was formed specifically to target the tourism sector, to assist the generation of new black-owned tourism enterprises to get into the sector itself. So with the realization of the sector remaining untransformed, as we have seen over the years, and it is actually a thing that is still existing now, the fund was formed to assist our black entrepreneurs to get into the sector. That is what we are doing.
What kind of things do you fund?
What kind of businesses do we fund?
Yes. Yeah. What kind of activities in the tourism value chain do you fund?
Oh, okay. So we I think maybe in a broad scheme of things, we fund any kind of business that is in the tourism sector. We fund hotels. We fund businesses that are in the entertainment sector. We fund businesses that are in the basically anything that is in the tourism sector, we do fund. I don't think there is any kind of exclusion. We have funded a couple in the tourism sector. In this case, we're actually talking game lodges, even attraction sites, and tour operators. We fund all of those.
And the fund size.
The fund size.
Yes. So if I come to you and I'm a tourist, tour guide, or I run a B&B, what is the minimum amount you will fund me for?
So before I answer that, we have been provided over the years. This is a relationship that started in 2018 up until now, and in given up 20 million rand to fund. And in that 120 million rand, we are actually funding businesses individually. We go up to 5 million rand that they can get access to on the grant fund itself. But if the business needs more money, we do fund from the NEF side, and we actually structure those deals in whatever form that is required by that specific application, be it debt funding or equity funding. So the grant funding itself is assisting the entrepreneurs, as a contribution to equity, if you want to look at it like that.
So in a sense, just by your suggestion there of the kind of instruments you use, both equity and debt funding, you would also fund somebody who might want to acquire an existing company in the tourism sector, or acquire a stake in it, and maybe get 51% ownership and so on.
So in this specific one, Ayabonga does not cover the acquisition. Okay.
I see. Okay.
We actually funding expansion. We are funding, operating costs. We are funding working capital. We are funding expansions of those businesses, and we have seen a whole range of them that we have done. But that's basically what we confine ourselves to in this specific fund. But I'm sure in the future, the Department of Tourism would be looking into how we can structure the acquisitions into this fund, and it is a conversation that is ongoing. I'm hoping that pretty soon we can resolve that.
Why should I come to you? Why can't I just go to a bank?
You're coming to, the bank, firstly, the bank is not going to give you a grant. Okay, that's number one.
Sure.
So you get a grant from us, because of this very relationship that we have with the Department of Tourism, but as well, we pride ourselves as an institution that is looking for a little bit more than what you get from a bank. I mean, firstly, we are specifically assisting black entrepreneurs and black businesses. I mean, banks do not even talk that language. That's the language that we speak as a DFI, and a DFI that has been set up to specifically assist in that regard.
And then, of course, many people might be asking themselves the question, okay, so I get the funding, how long do I have to pay it back in instances where we're talking about the component that isn't the grant?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I'm glad that it is clear that the grant is a grant. So
yes. No, the grant is there. But, I mean, if I come and I want $1 million, you might give me maybe 250,000 as the grant, and then I might have to pay back the 750,000,
Of course. And so firstly, maybe it's not, it's on a 50-50 basis. So if you're coming in with a $1 million, you'll be lucky to actually get the entire 500 rand, 500,000, and the remaining 500,000 coming from the NEF.
Sure.
Now, in terms of how long you would have to take to repay the NEF facility, we do projections. Every deal is looked at on its own merit. And we do projections, we stress test those cash flows to see how long can the business actually, how long can the business afford to carry that facility. If it's 2 years, it is 2 years. If it's 3 years, it is 3 years. So we structure it the way it needs to be structured. So there is no one deal that is the same as the next. But what is popular is actually loans that go up to sort of 5 years. We also do not want to go too long if we are not funding a very long-term asset, like, for instance, a property. So you see when we are funding operating costs, for instance, that would be a shorter term kind of facility. But then, depending on the kind of asset funding, we structure it as and how it needs to be structured.
And I guess, the other element that I think many of our listeners would be interested in, any scope in the administration of this fund for financial intermediaries? So somebody who might be a funder with their own pipeline, or a micro funder who says, look, I operate in the space, I know of a few people, can I, generate a book for yourselves, or is this just yourselves as the NAF, the Strategic Projects Fund, straight to the entrepreneur?
We go straight to the entrepreneur, unfortunately. We do not...
Why do you say unfortunately?
Well, unfortunately, because you asked the question,
Okay, sure.
Because I guess that is probably what some people would expect the NAF to do, to give a huge sum of money to somebody that is managed. As it is, we have been given funds to manage ourselves, so that's what we do. So we look at every entrepreneur and every business on its own merit, and we fund like that. However, every now and again, we do get visits from those type of people who actually manage businesses for other people. But then when we do our due diligence, we do the due diligence on an entrepreneur as well as on that specific business on its own. We don't actually rely or depend on what another third party has actually done. We actually do the due diligence ourselves.
So some insight you've learned, as you've administered this, because I'm also quite interested, I guess, in sort of the type of firms you've funded, what you've learned about those firms in a sector, which I might add, because this is why even the Tourism Equity Fund landed up in the courts. There was a seeming predominance of white players, even in the small business segment of the tourism sector. What are you learning as the NEF, in your funding of tourism product and service providers over the last while since you've administered this fund?
I think one of the biggest lessons that we have learned is not a very easy sector to get into. It has got, we know, historically it has been white dominated. I think that is a truth that we cannot run away from, and that's the reason why this facility has actually been created to make sure that we change the structure and form of the industry. What we have learned is that we, as the NEF and any other institution that is involved in the sector, we need to be a little bit more involved over and above providing of financial assistance. I mean, at the NEF, we've got a department that actually assists these entrepreneurs to build financial themselves, to create business that are actually, good enough to be able to be presented to any financial institutions to fund. So I think we have learned that we need to go an extra mile. We need to be more involved than just giving financial assistance and giving it at that. Over and above, after we have actually given financial assistance, we also have a post-monitoring department that actually assists entrepreneurs that don't have skills in, say, accounting or legal matters. If there are legal matters that are required, we make sure that our entrepreneurs are actually linked up with people that have skills to assist them with those needs.
It's a difficult market. I mean, one would think. It's seasonal. Margins maybe aren't as good unless you are in certain segments of it. I mean, to an entrepreneur who's listening to us now, what message, if any, would you have?
I think, I want to actually speak to how difficult the market is. I think I may add, in the advent of COVID, I mean, I don't even have to tell you how hard this industry has taken a hit. Just today, actually, I have just landed from one of our projects in Mpumalanga. Just to see the numbers that were reported for the period during COVID compared to what we are seeing now, we actually see a very good picture of what COVID has actually done to the industry. Having said that, though, we are seeing things turning in terms of, the tourism itself, local tourists actually taking up time to visit the tourist destinations in South Africa, and we are seeing the industry, growing. Now, what's the message that we can give to our entrepreneurs out there? Today, probably this is the time to come in. Any kind of industry and any kind of business, you want to get in at a time when it is low, because no one is expecting it to stay low. Very soon we're going to be seeing an influx of foreign visitors coming into the country, wanting to see our sites, wanting to stay at our hotels. We want to make sure that we are ready. So this is probably the time that we need to get in and make sure that these facilities are ready and receptive to the international visitors when they get ready to come through.
And I guess, which goes to my next question, the outlook, your own expectations as a funder. I mean, you're funding the underlying businesses in this space. Your expectations by way of the tourism outlook and I guess in particular anticipation of tourism arrivals.
I think, we place a lot of dependence, obviously, on what the economists around the country say about the outlook of various industries that we're involved in. And just like we do when we look at the tourism sector. So the outlook that we are seeing now is that says we have probably seen, one would say, the worst over the COVID period, but I think things are coming up. When you go into the tourism website, you will actually see the projections going forward. Today we are expecting that the local tourism is going to take up, and we are expecting that in the very near future, you will actually start seeing, going into the peak season now, you are going to see a lot of uptake in the tourism sector as a whole, not just one specific thing, but just as a whole, it should go up. Look, how much is that is going to go up by? We really, really don't know, because there's a whole lot of other sectors. The petrol price doing what it's doing, putting a big dent to people's pockets. People are very choosy in terms of what it is that they want to get involved in. And, people are very calculating in terms of what they do. But people, again, they are bent out. They just want to get out and actually do something. So we're seeing a season that is really taking up.
Sure.
Let's see how sustainable it is.
Okay. Hold the line there for me for a bit, because we have one of our listeners who sent us a voice note. Take a listen to this.
What?
Good evening, Ayabonga. I hope you're random for it. This is Dumzambula Gardens. Yeah, Ayabonga, the funds that are allocated by NEF. sounds like a good initiative. I hope everyone who qualifies in that criteria can take the opportunity, not for granted, and apply. But there's a problem, Ayabonga, with situation like this, like when there's funds like this. Do you know, people who talk on radio, they always sound so friendly, Bona. Then they give all out the information, but the people who are involved when the application processes begin, they're not helpful as the way the people that you guys invite on radio are explaining. I so wish people can just get enough help by assist you through the process of application, because that's the problems is hlangana nazo. Because you find out people, they don't understand Ayabonga Ubuti entrepreneurship like is the engine of the economic growth of South Africa.
Sure, Tumza. Yeah. So, Mdluli, sorry, I mean, we couldn't finish off that voice note, but I think Tumza's point is well made. You guys sound a lot better and a lot less daunting on radio than when entrepreneurs have to go and knock at your door. Just a brief response.
Thanks for that point, Ayabonga. I think, where do I start this answer? Our doors are always open. We are working, I said to you, we're working almost 24 hours a day, just to try and assist our entrepreneurs. That's exactly what we do. That's the name of the game where we are. I think...
okay, I sense the so. Hold the line there for me. We're going to take a quick spot break, and then when we come back, I'll allow you to conclude your response.
The SMME Exchange. Make it happen. The SMME Exchange. Right now on Metro FM Talk.
Yeah, Babu Mdluli, please conclude.
Yes. All right. So what the line I was taking was to say, when we are presented with a solid business proposition at the NF, we go all out to make sure that we give as much assistance as that business proposition requires. And like I said earlier to you, we also have departments that make sure that our entrepreneurs are assisted in areas where we find that perhaps those business propositions need more assistance. Those departments are there. Now, in terms of, the people that come through and they feel they do not get the assistance that is required, I'm not really sure, because like I said, our doors are always open. We always receive people now that we've started going back to the office. We're having meetings, we're having calls. These days we even give our cell phone numbers, so that I won't give it now on the line.
Please don't do that.
Yeah. But we are there. We are there to assist our people, and like I say, we've got a lot of success stories. We've got a lot of people that would come through and say, actually, we have received a lot of assistance from an institution like the NF. It is unfortunate that every now and again we do get the comments such as what we are getting now. But like I said, people must just reach out. They must just reach out to us, and let's see how we can assist them.
Cornelius Mdluli, thank you very much for your time.
I thank you, and I thank your listeners. Have a good evening, Ayabonga.
Cornelius Mdluli is a Strategic Investment Associate at the Strategic Projects Fund of the National Empowerment Fund.